Hello, my name is David Roach, and in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about how to hold a plectrum. I think it's something that comes up quite a lot for ukulele players. Yeah, it's not that much of a dark art, but it is an important thing. I think the very first thing to say is that there's a lot of books about this and a lot of literature about how to hold a plectrum. Even YouTube literature, if you can call it that. Yeah, most of it comes from electric guitar, I would say, in the modern era. Things like John Petrucci, Paul Gilbert, all those 80s shred guitar players have hours and hours of material on how to hold a plectrum effectively. And, they are really, really thorough. So I would recommend that if this video doesn't cover everything for you. Alright, so I've got this slightly chewed and used plectrum that I've been using for a while. You can see it's from a well-known brand called Dunlop. They have a little picture of a turtle or tortoise on the front. Slightly grim because oldie-worldy plectrums were built out of tortoise shell, so... but these ones are not. They're made out of plastic. One of the first things I would say is plectrums come in different thicknesses. Although this is, which one you use is down to personal preference, I would say starting with something between 0.8 and 1.2 millimeters in thickness is really, really useful. Something firm is also really useful because you're kind of in control of it. I use 2mm thick plectrums, but that's just because I like them. I would never advocate using these. I think they're probably too thick. Alright, how to hold a plectrum. Hold a plectrum with your index finger and your thumb. I wouldn't hold it any other way unless you absolutely have to, unless there's some sort of accessibility requirement. I would hold them this way because it frees up this part of your hand to do other things later on. Pat Metheny and Paul Gilbert both hold their plectrums like this. Pat Metheny does it a lot of the time, Paul Gilbert does it some of the time. But Paul Gilbert also holds it like this. So, there is some flexibility there, and there are some precedents for people holding it in a very different way. But by and large, the accepted way to hold it is like this. The way to hold it is quite confusing sometimes because it's a little bit weird. So the way I would start is by making an A-OK sign with your thumb. Okay, everything is okay. And as you can see, my thumb is on top of my finger. It's like I've curled my finger like this, and I put my thumb on top. They're not pointing the same way though. The thumb is up and the fingers are across. And in the direction of the thumb's point, that's the direction I want the plectrum to be pointing to, kind of outwards. Mine tends to turn a little bit with my hand as well, so like this. It's hard to see on this camera. Yeah, this plectrum's a little bit worn, but it's all on here. With the hand position, people often ask, should I have my fingers out or my fingers in? And I would say there are precedents for both. But I would just say keep your hand relaxed. If you're in an extreme position where you're clenching or you're overextending the other way, then that's probably not great. Basically, just be relaxed and try not to worry about it too much. So, with a plectrum, like with strumming, there are two main types of stroke. There's down strokes, and up strokes. See that down stroke, simple enough. It goes this way, down, up strokes come the other way. And you can combine these play very fast things. So the difference between strumming, it's hard to show on this camera actually, and plucking comes from the wrist, strumming comes from the elbow. Much freer, much freer. So that fine motion from the wrist allows you to get really, really close into the instrument and be really accurate with what you're playing. Good exercises to begin with when you're plucking. If you're a more experienced player and you're used to playing scales, I would recommend something like this. So you're going to play one finger per fret, starting from the first fret of 4th string. 1, 2, 3, 4. Move the pattern down a string. 1, 2, 3, 4. Move the pattern down a string. 1, 2, 3, 4. Move the pattern down a string. Move it up a fret, then back up. Ad nauseum. The way to do this is to a metronome. So you have the tick, 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 tick. Starting at say maybe 90 beats per minute, 80 beats per minute, and increasing in increments of 5 until you've either had enough or you reach a point that you can no longer pass. yeah, these exercises were used by a lot of sort of high-speed electric guitarists like Paul Gilbert, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, John Petrucci, and Tom Morello. They all use this exact same this as part of a larger practice routine. But they all use this exact same exercise to align their pick in hand with their playing. So it's a little dry, but it's really, really good. I personally found it to be really good. I used to do this maybe, I don't know, like 2-3 hours a day sometimes, really absurd amount. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that now, but I do think doing a little bit every day will allow you to get more control of your plectrum. The other thing to say about this exercise is always make sure it's alternately picked. Alternate picking is where you do down strokes, then up strokes immediately after. Down, up, down, up. And that's really important as well, because it's not all downstrokes. Downstrokes are really appropriate for a lot of things, and they have their place. But alternate picking is really good. Oh, cool. So yeah, I mean, that is the sort of the basic, most on-the-surface guide of plectrum usage. There's so much stuff you can do with these things, and you can plow hours of practice into it. But the reason I think this is important is because there's a lot of information about plectrum usage is left almost out of the discussion with ukulele playing. Alternate picking and modern plectrum usage is like a huge storied thing, a massively studied thing. So, you know, be rigorous with your playing and make sure that this isn't the only video that you watch about it. Make sure you go out there and check out all of the stuff that is there. It might not necessarily be for ukulele, but it is worth knowing about. So that's kind of like John Petrucci and, you know, even things like Pat Metheny I wouldn't necessarily recommend copying. But, you know, John Petrucci, Paul Gilbert, all these Steve Vai, they all have these enormous practice routines. Go and have a look and see what sort of exercises they say as well. You will be confronted with an enormous amount of stuff. And just maybe 10-15 minutes a day of some small exercises can be really, really beneficial. Alright, check out ukulelemodern.com. Thank you very much.